My name is Richard Hugo and I'm the Executive Chairman of Leap Legal Software. We're a software company that started in Sydney, and we are today the largest independent legal software company in the world. Just short of 13,000 law firms around the world use software from Leap. Stephen Richards had mentioned law firms from 1 to 5 people. Pleasingly for both Stephen and for me, the average law firm in both Australia and the United States has 4.4 people in it. And in fact, that is 97.5% of law firms in the world have 4.4 people in them. So although we always say we only deal with lawyers in small law firms, in fact, it's the vast majority of law firms in the world are like that. What the vast majority of law firms in the world are doing is helping people whose lives are in distress through circumstance, accident, crime, family circumstances, or the biggest stress in the Western world. The Western world's greatest hobby is buying and selling property, and there's always stress involved in that buying and selling of property. We write software for those guys who are looking after the people when they are going about their lives. So a lot of what Stephen said is very similar to us. The large law stuff is not what we do. What we do is we help lawyers help people. And those lawyers are the lawyers who you and I would go to when we need help. I'll start with a bit of myth busting. There's always the statement that Australian lawyers are backwards and don't embrace technology, and I mean, a couple of you have kind of inferred that today, right? And a couple of the speakers have inferred it. It is absolutely not the case. It's absolutely not the case. The truth of the matter is, and obviously we sell practice management software and a whole lot of other things beside, but here are some statistics for you. 5,500 firms in Australia use Leap, which is a sophisticated, advanced legal management system. Of them, some speakers here today mentioned the cloud. Of those, 3,600 firms are in the cloud. So, you know, when I read an article in the Law Journal a couple of months ago about whether going to the cloud is a good idea or not, and I say, well, actually, your market has moved already. They're there already, right? So it's not about whether it's a good idea. It's actually happened. And those decisions, those technology decisions to move to the cloud, are driven by a number of factors, and probably the most crucial one is competition. Because if you use old redundant technology and the guy in the law firm next door uses modern technology, that lawyer will do more at a lower price than you will with old technology. And it is competition that actually drives this adoption of software. Mobility has also been mentioned a few times today. We've got 3,000 lawyers in Australia using their mobiles all the time. We know where they use them, we know why they're using them, but this mobility issue that has been mentioned a few times, it happens. I mean, we know lawyers go to court and they work the way I do. They go to court with a mobile phone because they've, in fact, if you use our software, you've got everything on the phone, you've got everything on the iPad, you've got everything there. Anything that anybody does back in your office is on your phone and on your iPad. So, in fact, a whole mobility, I think Chris Latte mentioned it, some other speakers earlier mentioned, mobility has changed the way lawyers are working. That mobility issue is not only about going out and about. The big change that we are seeing now is that a lawyer will get up from behind his or her desk, walk to the boardroom, you take your phone with you, you sit down with the client, you start your timer, you start the consultation, you finish, you stop the timer, you walk out. So it's not this basic issue of recording the contemporaneous note has been turned on its head, because you actually do record it contemporaneously. You don't wait until you finally sit down behind your computer and try and remember what you did at 9 a.m. today. So it's absolutely changing the way lawyers work. Our purpose, as I said, is to help the lawyers who help people. So that's in the common areas of law. I might just pick up a question that has been asked a few times today about what is the future. The fact of the matter is that with the Western world generally getting wealthier, with superannuation, with the states getting bigger, the value of family law work over the last 20 years has been absolutely transformed. It is valuable work for lawyers today. So I certainly think that there's always going to be more work for lawyers in the 97.5%. Artificial intelligence is not going to help my daughter when she's distressed. You know, it's going to take a human being who's got some compassion, empathy, and legal knowledge to help them. We work as a company. Our job is to create solutions that not only help the lawyers who compete, but will help drive work to those lawyers. If you take something like immigration law, for example, the market has choice. They can go to a migration agent or they can come to a lawyer. Can we get the lawyer better software so that the market will choose lawyers rather than migration agents? Will they choose lawyers rather than certified licensed conveyancers, certified conveyancers? We try to do software for that. As far as innovation is concerned, which I felt was the theme here, the cloud has been mentioned. I've covered that off. The legal profession is moving to the cloud, regulation or not. It's happened, right? As far as mobility is concerned, I've covered off on that. And I think the other thing that is completely changed is technology generations used to last perhaps half a decade or a decade. You'd have, you know, we all remember kind of the pre-DOS world, not all of us actually. Some of us remember the pre-DOS world, the DOS world, the Windows world, the first networks, all of that. And what's happened is that is just accelerated. And for us in the technology business, our developers are looking at new technology every week. And, you know, we sometimes haven't even got quarter way through a project and technology has overtaken us and we have to change the technology that we're using. So it is a far more fluid environment that we're in than historically was the case. So that is the kind of innovation that we're in. What are we doing? I'm just going to mention some highlights here. I mean, there are hundreds of micro innovations that we do. I just stuck a top one up there because it's a nice topical one. We stuck it on the phone in the last quarter's release, which was the ability to actually scan a document using your phone and scan it directly into the matter. And we thought, you know, where did these ideas come from? Somebody thought it was a pretty cool feature. It's gone from nowhere to being about the third most popular feature on the phone. Bang, just like that. Now, why is that? That's because people are very comfortable using this. Did we have to give them a training course? No. Because people know how to use this stuff these days. You just need to design great software and people will use the functionality. As an amusing aside, we have had to do a lot of teaching for people on the mobile phone, but we've had to teach them how to register an account on iTunes and how to download an app from the App Store. That's what we've had to teach them. We haven't had to teach them how to use the application. It was just teaching them how to get an account. Leap we think that Leap has led the way on a lot of innovations. I think combining both the case management or matter management and accounting in a single application, I think one of the foundations of our global success has been that we have done that better than anybody else. We've got 15,000 automated forms in Australia, 15,000. We know because Microsoft have told us that we've got more automated forms in Word than any other company in the world. So we combined that with the accounting system, with the legal research tools, and all of it is in a single application. We were the pioneer in the world to say that lawyers don't need to have their own general ledger system. And we decided years ago that we would outsource the general ledger system. What is happening today is all of our global competitors are actually doing exactly the same thing. And the argument goes that we could write our own word processor, but why would we? Microsoft have got a much better one. We could write our own general ledger system, but why would we? Xero's got a much better one. So we pioneered that, and as I say, the world is following us. Integrated searching. Integrated searching was a Leap idea. We had that idea. Today there is InfoTrack has been mentioned. My colleague Stephen Wood would be tickled pink if he knew InfoTrack had been mentioned 3 times the other day. But that was our idea, that integrated searching that Stephen referred to. You know, we developed that and we've actually transformed your profession. We took a process that on average used to take around about 13.5 minutes and made it 6 seconds. Now, when you do that millions of times a year, that is actually transforming a profession, but the profession doesn't know it's actually happening to it. because it's happening in this kind of discrete transaction, one transaction at a time. But that integrated searching, interestingly enough, we pioneered it here, and it is still the most sophisticated integrated searching system in the world. So this profession here has benefited from that. We've got another integrated system for file archiving. This problem of file archiving in small law firms, speak to law cover, the problem of finding files and all of that. And we simplified it. We put a bin in the corner and said, lawyer, throw your file in that bin and we'll do everything else for you. And we catalog it and we file it and we store it and we take images of it. That was an innovation that we made, which is kind of leading legal file archiving in the world. I put a little fact up there, which is interesting. I twisted it at the last minute there. Here's an interesting thing that we know. 70% of the data in small law firms is more than 90 days old. Now, how could David Jones operate if they operated like that? So we are trying to transform that. We've got a newish product called Rapid Pay, which enables you to put a link into the footer on an invoice and go and pay directly, and that money goes directly into the matter. And we are gradually doing that. It's becoming increasingly popular. But how do you get lawyers to send the invoice out in the first place, and how do you get them to collect the money? Because a lot of the time they have to still be doing work for people who haven't paid in 90 days. And it is commercially, probably, as I say, commercially pretty absurd. We're trying to help them there to get paid faster. When I was looking at some of the videos, there was a discussion. I think the gentleman from Ostley was talking about the global publishing. I think he called it an oligopoly, if I remember correctly. I refer to it typically as a cartel. What happened is 3 publishers bought up all the legal publishers. They all decided who was going to have the best-selling publication. Everybody put the prices up. There was no competition. And the consequence of all of that, actually, I say he's angrier about it than I am. I'm kind of amused by it. But the upshot of that is that most lawyers in small law firms, prior to our inventing this product, did their research using Google. I can tell you, I've been into thousands of law firms in my time, and there are no books on the shelves. They use Google for the legal research, and one lawyer famously said to me that Wikipedia was getting very good. So we decided some years ago, some 8 years ago, we created a business called By Lawyers, for Lawyers, which is an association of lawyers who produce legal content, practice guides, if you like, and automated precedent documents, deeds, agreements, all that sort of stuff. We created that for lawyers, and 5,000 law firms in Australia use that every day. So, in fact, we did achieve our goal of getting affordable legal help to small law firms in this country. And we filled a gap underneath the global publishers, because the global publishers actually can't get to small law firms. They can't afford to get to small law firms, whereas we can, because we've built our business around getting to small law firms. We've got some exciting new stuff coming out for getting conveyancing work. It's a product we just released called Perfect Portal, which is to help lawyers to get their conveyancing work. It's the opposite end of spectrum from PEXA, which is right at the end of the transaction. We're right at the front of the transaction to help the lawyers to get work efficiently. Websites is another thing where we're trying to get work to them. We've got more than 1,500 optimized websites that we manage for law firms where they get leads every day. So we're trying to help the profession to prosper. There's probably more stuff.
I'm just conscious of time.
Yep, I'm finishing now. Final slide. Commercial innovation. This was our major commercial innovation. If you've got a practicing certificate and law cover, you can come and buy Leap and you can practice law. For $190 per user per month, with nothing up front, for just $190, lawyers start practicing law. And we have them every month. We have hundreds a year. And that was a major commercial innovation for us. And we know many lawyers who've come and said to me, we could not get credit from anybody else in the world except from us. And that is, I think that is a very, very big innovation that we created for the legal profession. So the innovation team runs through everything we do. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'll try to speak quickly.
But can I ask you about
sure.
Storing documents on the cloud? Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's a debate, discussion about just how secure that is. What's your view about it?
It's safer than that pad in front of you. We store over 250,000 documents now for the Australian client base. They're all stored in what was mentioned earlier by one of the speakers in the Amazon Web Services data store. So all of our servers are servers in Amazon. The servers in Amazon are the data in there is as secure as it's possible to make data in the world. No law firm can spend the money to make it as secure as that. It's just not possible. And you've got Amazon and Microsoft and some other providers, Rackspace, Hewlett-Packard, all competing every day to have the most compelling and affordable offering for that data storage. But genuinely, there is nowhere else that you can store data that is more secure in the world.
Okay. Questions?
Yes, perhaps tangentially relevant, but you mentioned an average law firm size of 4.4.
Yeah.
Which direction is that trending, if at all?
I think it's absolutely static. I often get asked about the aggregators, like the Slater and Gordon story, that interests people. What we find, our experience with that is because we lose lots of law firms to Slater and Gordon and to Shine and to the other one that didn't survive. ILH, I think they were called, Independent Legal Holdings. We lose those clients, and what generally happens is that 6 to 9 months later, those partners come spitting out, and they walk in and they start a new law firm. So the big aggregators, I don't think, are impacting at all on the size of law firms. If there is any trend, it is that, in fact, I do have another exciting slide. If there is any trend, it is probably towards small. It's consistent with what Leonie Chapman was talking about. Here are some of the things. Paperless office. We've got paperless. We've got probably our first completely paperless client in Australia. The partner who led that charge at the time was 66 years old. So this is not a preserve of young people. It's a preserve of youthful people who are interested in building businesses. They will do this. We've got paperless law firms throughout Australia, totally paperless. The way they resolve incoming stuff, when something comes in, if they scan it in, if it's just a normal piece of correspondence, they shred it. If it's an important document, they send it back to the person who sent it to them. They don't have a manila file, they don't store anything, they just run the whole thing electronically. Some of that restructuring that was being spoken about, this is an example. This is one client that I mentioned. He's got, this lawyer was a client of ours. He had 12 users in an old client server environment. He bought our cloud product. 3 years later, he had 38 people, 5 are in his office, and 33 of them work from home. And what he did is he sent them to work from home, and he bought them all a smart car and put the name of his law firm on the side of the smart car. And I mean, this guy's gone from probably 12 new matters a week to 140 new matters a week. And what has he done? He's been empowered and enabled to do that using technology. We've got examples of this throughout the country of entrepreneurial lawyers using technology to innovate in the delivery of professional services. This firm actually does not have any support staff. That's just pure lawyers. I'm sorry, I'm lying. There are 2 support staff in the Philippines who do some of the real back-end stuff, but the rest are all lawyers. So he's leveraged his leverage bias in favor of fee earning exceeds probably 99% of law firms in the world. He's not wasting money on office space. He's not wasting money on support staff. It's just lawyers. It's good news for lawyers. Bad news for paralegals. It's all good news for lawyers. That virtual law firms, we've got many of those virtual law firms. I think we're finding, retirement was mentioned, we're finding that we are a much safer haven for a lawyer considering retirement to keep her or his files, particularly in small law firms where they're not able to sell it on. And the final thing is that workplace flexibility. Women, when we know when people work, I can assure you there's not 5 minutes of the day in the 24 hours that lawyers are not working in this country. We're always shocked. We've got it up in our office at 5 minutes past 12. We can see how many law firms are working, and there's always somebody working. So we've got a lot of that. the transformation is happening.
More questions? Yes, Elizabeth?
Thank you. I wouldn't mind asking just if this is the last question, a last question. You started off by distinguishing large law firms in the high end of town as opposed to people people whose lives are in distress.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people drive business, and businesses and banks are driven by people. So at some stage or other, whether it's high end of town or the mums and dads who are divorcing and needing, are emotionally in distress, there's distress at every level when there's interaction with a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see the future of lawyers when there's all this back-end assistance in terms of technology?
Personally, I don't think it's any threat to lawyers at all. I think that as I say, there are market dynamics at work, right? As the Western world is getting wealthier, you've got that dynamic creating more legal work. The need for support staff is the thing that's dropping away. Because you just don't need to spend money on paralegals and secretaries and receptionists and all that anymore. So all of that is good news for the profession. I think I can probably safely say it now, but I mean, the big difference between big law and small law, in my opinion, is that to a degree, in large law, you can be rewarded for your inefficiencies because you are just billing on a time basis. Most firms still bill on a time basis, no matter what some of the consultants have to say about alternative billing methods. Time is how it works. In a small law firm, if you're not efficient, you go broke. That's how simple it is. You can't sit and just merrily have a time recording system going all day. Your clients aren't going to be able to afford to pay you. So I think that the future for small law is very different to the future for large law. Artificial intelligence may have application when you're dealing with digital with e-discovery for British and American tobacco. But for the average lawyer who's above the dry cleaner at your local station, artificial intelligence has no application to his or her work life whatsoever, and I don't believe it will have for decades, if not centuries, because they are in fact helping people. They're not manipulating masses of data. It's a different, in many respects, it's a completely different career.